Kia ora and welcome to Talking Dairy. This is episode 104. I'm your host Jack McGowan, a senior developer here at DairyNZ. Today's episode is all about the backbone of New Zealand's farming systems, pasture, and a new cross-sector 7-year initiative called the Resilient Pastures program. Research shows that our changing climate is already affecting how long pastures last and how they perform. This is especially felt by those farming in the Upper North Island. That's why a group of farmers, scientists and partners, with support from the government, are working together to tackle this head-on. I'm joined by two people closely involved in the program. Elena Monet is a senior scientist at DairyNZ and is program manager and is co-leading the forage project. And Jim Inglis is from Beef and Lamb New Zealand and co-leading the Farm Systems project. Together they'll break down how this program works, what it aims to achieve, and most importantly, how it can help you on your farm. Let's get into it. Tēnā korua, Elena and Jim. It's great to have you both here. To start with, we'd love to hear a quick intro about who you are. Elena, let's start with you.
Kia ora, Jack. Thank you. My name's Elena Monet. I'm a senior scientist here at DairyNZ, based in the Hamilton office. I've been with DairyNZ for around 20 years, and my background probably focuses on forage and crop agronomy, and that's why I'm involved in the Resilient Pastures project.
Thanks, Elena. And how about you, Jim?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Good to be here. Yeah, Jim Inglis. My role is strategy and operations for the farming excellence team at Beef and Lamb New Zealand. I look after the farm systems work and setting up and rolling out R&D projects. I've been with Beef and Lamb for 1.5 years, and I've got a background in farm systems.
Thank you. Elena, can you start off by explaining what the Resilient Pastures program is and why is it needed now?
The Resilient Pastures program is a 7-year initiative. It's led by DairyNZ and is in partnership with MPI through the Primary Sector Growth Partnership Fund and supported by our industry partners, Beef and Lamb New Zealand. It's really focusing on improving pasture productivity and persistence on dairy, sheep and beef farms across the Upper North Island. The program was initiated in response to concerns that were being raised by farmers in the region, talking about declining pasture persistence, declining pasture productivity after a few years of sowing, particularly increasingly decline in pasture performance in response to climate and weather. The goal of the program is to identify pasture species, pasture mixes, and develop management practices that enable our pastures to be more resilient to climate and weather now and into the future. In other words, we're looking for pastures that can maintain their productivity and their quality and their persistence for longer over time.
$17 million is a big investment for Upper North Island, Elena. I'm sure some farmers elsewhere might be wondering why the focus up there. So will they benefit too if they're not up in the Upper North Island?
While this program is focused on supporting farmers in the Upper North Island, that's because, this is the region where climate impact is most keenly being felt. And this is the region where these farmers have really shared with us their concerns about declining pasture performance and their concerns about how that's going to continue into the future. These farmers are experiencing more extreme weather events, increased pest incursions, increased incursion of subtropical weed species into their pastures. And the climate up there is really moving outside the adaptive range of our current pasture species. While the initial focus is on the Upper North Island, the insights and the solutions that are developed in this region will eventually become relevant nationwide over time, because Northland also presents the opportunity that it's very diverse in terms of its subclimates, its topography and its soils. So we can use that diversity as a means for testing things at scale under different conditions over time to really grow the knowledge around how pasture species perform under different conditions.
Okay, Elena, you said farmers were already raising concerns about the changes in weather and more pests. What have you seen in the data, like, the impact on dry matter grown?
Yeah, farmers' observations of declining pasture performance are certainly backed up by the data. When we started looking into this problem, we saw that the data collected by Stats NZ showed that regrassing rates are increasing, and the data collected from DairyBase shows that pasture harvest has been reducing. In the Northland region, over the last 2 decades, pasture harvest has decreased by 1 tonne of dry matter per hectare per decade. In the Waikato, that's half a tonne of dry matter per hectare per decade declining. That's a significant amount coming from the grow and feed base. And if that is projected to increase, it is going to be increasingly problematic as we go to the future. So if we aren't starting to develop solutions now, it's going to become increasingly problematic. So this program is really recognising that pasture is essential to New Zealand's farming systems, dairy, sheep and beef. Pasture underpins our low-cost, low-emissions food production, supporting strong animal welfare, and is really critical to maintaining global competitiveness of our animal products. Considering over 80% of the diet of our livestock comes from pasture, this program is really aiming to develop solutions for maintaining that grow and feed supply so that we can maintain that competitiveness into the future.
Okay, and as Alina said, this is a project that brings together not just dairy, but also dry stock as well. That brings us to you, Jim. Beef and Lamb New Zealand is a major partner in the Resilient Pastures program. What's their involvement and how does it connect to what farmers are dealing with?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. So we're stoked to be part of it. Beef and Lamb are going to supply some cash, which is good, expertise, and we're going to help with coordinating farmer involvement. We'll be involved pretty much in all aspects of the program from design through to extension. Beef and Lamb and DairyNZ work together on a lot of projects like research and extension already, so it's normal practice for us to look at an opportunity like this and go, right, how can we work together on it, and then work out how to include farmers, researchers and industry groups. What can we do to come up with some solutions? One of the good things about this type of funding and this type of government funding, as Alina said, is, it's a primary sector growth fund. And they're kind of designed to make sure that people work together, but also to help organisations work together. So, it's just natural that it progresses this way.
Jim, can you tell me more about how farmers have shaped this project and the direction we're going?
Yeah, for sure. So farmers have been involved in setting this project up, and like usual we get good feedback on what's happening around the place and how we could start and that we need to do something, and so we've sort of taken that on board. That was critical for getting the project underway.
So Alina was talking about the concerns that dairy farmers were raising and how that married up with the kind of data we see regarding pasture growing and regrassing. What have you been seeing in the beef sector?
Yeah, we're certainly getting feedback about the variability of seasons, how tough it is to, when you're spending money on seed and getting a good return out of that seed and not seeing it beaten up by the things that are trying to damage it. Farmers live in a complicated system and they're surrounded by change. And, if you think about sheep and beef farms, they've got diverse topography, they've got multiple livestock species, they might have periods of set stocking, like around lambing, they've got finishing systems, they've got breeding systems, and they've got to incorporate all these things into their operations. And, just like this huge variety in New Zealand dairy systems, how do we deal with this stuff? And you overlay with that farmers are dealing with change all the time, and whatever the nature of that change, because it comes from all angles, we need to provide more profitable options. So, we've had pretty clear feedback, and I guess we recognise our job is to work with farmers so that we can ask questions of this program, and then that will help us find, what pasture species and management tools they can use and what extension works for them as well. So, farmers get a say in how it works. And look, our levy base is made up of dairy farmers and sheep and beef farmers, and we just want to see everyone succeed. Yeah, so logical partnership, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what can farmers expect as the research progresses?
So as the research progresses, initially the first stages of the program is to connect with farmers to get them involved in the program. This is a program that's really founded on input from farmers, informing us of the specific challenges that they're having in their sub-regions and sharing some of the solutions and suggestions that are already being implemented. Some of the first pieces of work that we'll be doing is really getting an understanding of climate, so understand exactly what climates we're adapting to and by when. So when will regions further south be experiencing the same climates we're seeing in, say, Northland? Then it's around identifying what those forage species and mixtures or practices we could be evaluating in our research programs and connecting with farmers, finding farmers that want to be involved in shaping that research, evaluating that research on their farm, feeding back into the program, informing us how they want to see extension and decision support rolled out. So really farmers involved the whole way. So we'll be looking to be connecting and communicating with farmers through the whole duration of the program. As the program shapes up, we'll be looking to evaluate the solutions and system studies. So this is where Jim is going to be heavily involved. So making sure that any of the solutions that we're looking at in this program can be adopted on farm and still support profitable and sustainable farm practices.
Okay. How do you go about identifying possible pastures?
Farmers are already adapting. So there are already farmers across the region that are trialling things. So we're leveraging off their knowledge. There's some smaller scale research projects that have happened that have informed this work. And so part of this program is going to be, what do we already know? What can we extend at scale to help other farmers? Then we can look through the literature and look at finding out which pasture species might fit those climate niches. We can also look to our neighbours across the globe. What are farmers in other countries that have similar climates now or will have similar climates to them in the future? What are they doing in those regions? Do those regions support high producing livestock enterprises? And what can we learn from people that are a bit further along?
As Alina mentioned, Jim, you're co-leading the third project in this program, which will be testing how pasture solutions such as species, mixes and management fit into farm systems. What does that involve?
Yes, so I'm lucky enough to be co-leading this with Dr. Paul Edwards from DairyNZ. And we've been thinking about this in a few stages. As Alina pointed out, there's a few steps in this process, and we probably think about it in three main steps for farm systems. So that first bit is about bringing a farm systems lens to the early work. So, when we're looking at potential species, it's about asking questions, what are the options and what's the thinking about how these things might fit into real farms? And then it's about making sure that farmer voice is there and there's some practical experience when we're considering what we'll test and how we'll test it, and when we're asking questions about what we might do. What makes it in the gate, The second part is working out how we're going to measure the success or otherwise of the options that we've got. So, working out what does good look like. So we know there's a few things we want to understand. We want to understand establishment, so ease and cost of establishment. We want to understand resilience. We want to understand performance. We want to be able to get our head around the management requirements for species in various farming systems, and we want to know what benefits they bring. So to do that, we've just got to work out what we have to measure. Once we've worked out what we're dealing with or we're able to try, then we can lay that stuff out. The third part, once we know what we're testing and what we want to measure, we can start to set up some farm systems trials. That's probably going to be more from year 3 on. Although, there might be some prep work that we get going ahead of them. It's just kind of, we've got to use some common sense, but there'll be trials on dairy as well as sheep and beef farms.
What's a farm systems trial as opposed to any other sort of trial?
That's an excellent question. So any other sort of trial, if you're thinking about something that's sort of, a bit of controlled science, you have some small plots and you'll be measuring very precisely on whatever sized area you can control really tidily. Farm systems is kind of where it gets messy. We scale it up a bit. We're not talking about covering 1,000 hectares, but, we're talking about having paddocks or parts of paddocks where we can run animal systems. So we've got some dairy cows and milk, or we've got some finishing beef stock or whatever, and they're coming in and out. We're measuring everything that we can measure, and then we're recording all of the results that we see, and we're trying to work out what results we're getting out of it. It is a bit of a dark art.
But if I'm hearing you right, essentially testing it in a real farm situation where you haven't got complete control.
Yeah, for sure. And they could be on research farms, and we'll work with research farms where we can, or they can be trials done on commercial farms where we've got farmers that are keen to let us at, some of that recording and help us with the stuff that we wrap around it.
Cool. Thank you. Elena, this is a team effort. How will you make sure the solutions are practical and easy for farmers to use? Maybe Jim's already covered some of it, but...
It is a team effort, this program. So within this program, we will continue to bring together farmers, researchers, and other industry professionals like seed retailers, farm advisors, to all come together to have input into the research that we implement, to interpret the results that are coming out, and to sort of how we package that up into solutions that can be adopted on farm or trialled in the systems work.
Yeah, and I think Elena's done a really good job putting this together. It's the way it's kind of phased and the logical, how she's talked through the things that we do first and then second and then third. They kind of give people time to get involved and help us make sure that the next logical step is solid.
The way these 7-year programs are set up is that we do have ongoing review. So each year we'll be looking closely at, what has the program delivered? What are the results that are coming out? Are we reaching enough people across the region? Are the solutions being implemented? Are they fit for purpose? So there's quite a lot of review, reflection, refinement, so that we're making sure that as we go through the program that what's coming out of it will actually be impactful and is fit for purpose.
Okay, so what does success look like for both of you? Hopefully you have an agreed idea of what success looks like, or we're in trouble.
Oh, we'll see if they're the same, Jet.
Yeah.
I'll try to boil it down a bit, but like farm systems in New Zealand are diverse, and New Zealand farmers use a lot of different tools in a lot of different ways according to their system and where they farm. Success here is, more useful tools. Not just more tools, but more useful tools for New Zealand farmers, and in this case, more profitable forage options and sound ways to use them.
I'd agree with Jim. We're not looking for one silver bullet. We're looking for multiple solutions to fit farmers' diverse systems and needs. The ultimate success is that we've met the challenge, that we have managed to enhance the resilience of pastures, that we're mitigating that decline in pasture performance that we're observing. So ultimately, it's about having those solutions that can be adoptable on farm, have real impact in terms of maintaining or improving pasture productivity and persistence, and that farmers really do have confidence that pastures are going to be able to support profitable, sustainable, productive farm businesses across New Zealand into the future.
Thank you both. Now, finally, if someone listening, particularly farmers, wants to get involved or stay up to date, how can they do that?
There's a number of ways farmers can get involved. So we have a website. So on the DairyNZ website, the Resilient Pastures program. So there's contact details there, gives an overview of the program, and also my contact if you want to get in touch. Otherwise, get in touch with your regional managers, your people in the field that you connect with. Let them know that you're keen to get involved, and we'll add you to our list of contacts for people to be inviting along to workshops, sending information to.
And that's true for dairy farmers and beef and sheep farmers, whoever they connect with, they can talk to?
Absolutely, yep. Our beef and lamb extension managers, so your local extension manager, you hunt me out, or just keep an eye on our weekly e-diaries. We have some news and contacts in there too.
All right, thank you so much to Elena Monet and Jim Inglis for joining us today. The Resilient Pastures program shows what's possible when farmers, scientists and industry partners work together, not just for today's challenges, but to help farming thrive in the future. If you want to learn more or get involved, head to dairynz.co.nz/Resilient Pastures, check out the links in the show notes, or talk to your local area manager or extension team. We'll be sharing updates on this program over the next 7 years, so stay tuned. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Mōre ora. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Talking Dairy. Make sure to hit follow so you can keep up to date with our latest episodes. You can also keep up with DairyNZ News on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, or go to our website and sign up for our fortnightly DairyNZ News emails. As always, if you have any feedback on this podcast or have some ideas for future topics or guests to have on the show, please email us at talkingdairy@dairynz.co.nz. Mā te wā, Mōri ora, catch you next time.